Stanley Tucci Searching for Italy every Sunday, 9 p.m. right here on CNN. On most present hospitalizations could go back up with new variants emerge. And it's not the time to relax. We have to keep washing our hands, staying socially distanced, and for God's sake, wear your mask. Oof, lucky he isn't at CPAC. You get stoned for speaking. COVID relief bill. Now, Democrats are the inside story here. They are moving forward, it seems, but the minimum wage could still prove to be a major sticking point of division in that party. Speaker Pelosi says they will not rest until a $15 minimum wage gets passed. But I don't see how that gets passed as part of this. Why? The Senate parliamentarian, okay, that is the person that decides what meets the rules in the Senate for different procedures. They say the minimum wage doesn't pass the test to be included in what is called reconciliation, which is a shortcut process that Democrats are using to avoid a filibuster by the right. House Democrats, on the loud left flank, they say, no, Madam Vice President, reject the parliamentarian as your role as the president of the Senate. The White House says, no, we're not going to do that. We want to stick by tradition. So how does that play on the left? Democrats say, well, maybe we'll try to add it on as an amendment. Not likely to pass. So assuming the left can make peace with one another about the minimum wage, even without the wage hike, this bill would be a huge boost in direct aid to small businesses, another round of direct payments, $1,400 in a check to those making less than $75 grand a year, $2,800 for couples making less than $150 grand a year. Families with kids, you would be eligible for an additional $1,400 per dependent. There's also additional help for the unemployed, hungry, the uninsured, among other funding. Now, it is important to note that absent from the voting. I know I said it, but think about it. We are in the middle of a pandemic. They have delayed help for a long time. And the House is going to be minus a dozen members from the right. They all signed letters saying they can't attend due to the ongoing public health emergency, meaning the pandemic. It's a lie because they're at CPAC. If there's an ongoing health emergency, why is it okay for them to be there? They're just lying because that's okay in their ranks. Senator Ted Cruz, in the middle of a pandemic, talking to this crowd, listen to what he says.
Now they're saying everybody can get immunized. We can have herd immunity everywhere, and we're going to wear masks for the next 300 years. And by the way, not just one mask, 2, 3, 4. You can't have too many masks. How much virtue do you want to signal? This is just dumb.
No, Ted Cruz, you're dumb.
What he is saying is just dumb. It's actually more than that because he's not a dumb guy. For Senator Ted Cruz and an emerging number on his side, it's not about ignorance. It's arrogance. He actually believes that this is the way to go. Play to the lie. Play to the division. Mock science. Mock safety. Look in the face and laugh of what got us here. He's echoing the same nonsense that harnessed the denial that led us into the depths of this problem. You know why? His goal is to sound just like this guy.
When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done. We're going down, not up. We're going very substantially down, not up. But we have it so well under control.
Now remember, it's not that it was early. It was a lie. It was wrong, and he knew it. That's why the faces behind them were always the interesting ones to watch, right? Everybody like this. Because they all knew. It was a lie. That was the past, but you have to remember it because if you don't learn the lesson, you make the mistake again, as we see with Cruz right now. However, he's not in control, which means that doing the right things for a period and having a rollout for the vaccine is helping get the pandemic under control. Because look, 15 cases ballooned to nearly 30 million. 500,000 lives gone. 500,000 families broken, unable to mourn, largely forgotten. We didn't have our first memorial until just a week ago. You must remember the pain and the loss. And now there is some hope for a brighter future ahead if we do the right things. So let's bring in the better minds, Manu Raju and Van Jones. So, Manu, that's good on the vaccine. The fight that we're watching is on this pandemic relief battle. What is the state of play in the House right now?
We're expecting a pretty late night, a very late night. This could stretch into past midnight in 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the East to pass this bill. We do expect it to pass very narrowly. The Democrats have a very small majority here, and they need a majority of members who are present in voting to pass this bill. And that means, according to the number 3 Republican Democrat House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, they can only lose 3 votes total. And we expect they probably may lose 1, if not 2, maybe even 3, but that's it. But still, the Democratic leaders are confident. They say they have the votes. They believe they will get it through. And despite the concerns about the Senate parliamentarians ruling that this will be stripped out, this $15 minimum wage will be stripped out, they are still including that in this bill because their party, mostly on the left, are pushing this and are strongly behind the $15 minimum wage. So that will be part of this larger $1.9 trillion package that affects virtually all aspects of the economy. But then the tough part will begin after this very narrow vote when the Senate will strip that out, and they'll have to figure out whether they can get 50 votes in the Senate to get it through, and then 50-50 Senate. They need 50 Democrats to join hands and vote with it for this, and Kamala Harris, the vice president, breaking that tie, getting it through the Senate next week, and all in the anticipation and hope for the Democrats to get this done by March 14th. And that's the date, Chris, when so many people's jobless benefits are set to expire. So not much time here but Democrats are confident they can get it through, but just on their own, because Republicans are going to vote en masse against it.
They're not even voting. They're not even there. But let's not rush past this step because this is a real battle. As Manu has heard, I'm sure, Van, you too, and me, some on the left flank feel that they've been duped, that the Senate let this happen. They knew it would go this way. They're not really fighting. They're not doing what they could. Let's listen to a couple of voices on the left about how they feel about the politics of this minimum wage.
Well, the president was also disappointed in that outcome. He supports a $15 minimum wage. He supported it for many years. He believes it's critical and that nobody in this country should work full time and live in poverty. So he was also disappointed in the outcome, but he respects the Senate's process.
Democrats are unified about raising the minimum wage. And if we can't do it through a reconciliation bill, we'll figure out another way to do it. There may be things in this reconciliation bill that we can do to set the stage.
This is an advisory opinion from the parliamentarian. There is precedent in our history. Vice President Hubert Humphrey disregarded the parliamentarian's advisory opinion twice. Voters are not going to understand if we go back and in 2 years and say, you know what, there's a parliamentarian who told us we couldn't do it, so I'm sorry we couldn't deliver what we promised.
So, Van, where do you come down on this, and where do you think it ends up?
Well, look, I think that the progressives are correct in that it is very, very hard. This is why people voted. People crawled through broken glass, voted in the middle of a pandemic, stood in long lines. People worked incredibly hard to get the Democrats a majority of black voters, young voters, progressive voters. And I think it's suicide for this party not to do everything it can to deliver on the stuff that's going to make a long-term difference. Obviously, this package is needed, but the reality is in 2 years, the checks that are coming will have been spent. And what do you then say to a midterm Democratic Party base if you haven't fought to the last dog barks to deliver on some of this more structural stuff? Americans have not gotten a raise in more than a generation. We're at $7 an hour. It doesn't make any sense. So I do think that this is not just progressives trying to be woker than now. I think that this is is broadly popular in both parties, and it's needed in red states and blue states. I don't think that progressives should just roll over on this one because I think they're speaking for the majority of Americans, not just for the woke left.
56% in the most recent poll says they believe in a minimum wage. Manu, how much echo effect is there to the words of Representative Jayapal? What is the chance that the left flank will say, no, you know what? You're not getting our votes because we vote on this bill. You're sending it over there. You know it's VOA. So
I think very little, Chris.
Why?
Because they know that there are so many other things in this bill that they view as very significant, central to getting this economy back going, whether it's money for state and local governments, whether it's $1,400 in relief checks for individuals under a certain income threshold, whether it's extending jobless benefits, nutrition assistance, and the like. There are so many provisions in this massive proposal that they can't afford to just simply sink it over the $15 minimum wage. And in the Senate, there just is not enough support in order to get this through. There is, as Congresswoman Jayapal was saying, that certainly there's precedent in the Senate to overturn the ruling of the Senate parliamentarian, but that has not been done since 1975. And the senators on both sides are very reticent in going down that path because it could create chaos in the way the Senate operates. And on top of that, you have the more immediate problem. If they were to take that route, overrule the parliamentarian, then you're probably going to cost you the votes on the back end for Senator Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, who will vote against the bill because this parliamentary maneuver was done. So there simply is no path to getting the $15 minimum wage. Now, there is some talk, though, Chris, about some incentives to penalize companies, either tax them if they do not provide a $15 minimum wage for their employees. Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, Ron Wyden are all talking about that as an amendment, but that still runs into the same problem within the Democratic Party, getting enough support, and also does it pass the rules.
Van, the importance of this issue to people who think like you within your party was made clear to me today. Somebody said, look, I don't have to tell it to you. Stevie sung it to you. And they were talking to me about Living for the City that Stevie Wonder wrote in 1973. The lyrics of the key part are on the, you know the song, I know the song. But his father works some days for 14 hours, and you can bet he barely makes $1. His mother scrubs floors for many, and you best believe she hardly gets a penny, living just enough for the city. About kids whose clothes are clean, but they don't have much, who are stressed, who don't see any better days. You know how that song ends with people getting caught up in the game and winding up victims of circumstance. They say that's just as real today, and if the Democrats don't do something about it, and I don't know how you can claim you did if you didn't do the minimum wage, you're not keeping your promise.
I can't argue with Stevie Wonder. I can't argue with you. Listen, this is a big deal. There is real pain at the bottom for both parties. People want to be able to work, and they want to be able to earn their way out of poverty, and you need the rules to do that. And so I don't know what the options are. Obviously, it's tough to see progressives want to blow up the whole deal. But if we don't show backbone and strength and resolve, I'm always for the people at the bottom, folks in prison, folks who are working hard who don't have anything. And this is one of those issues that this is not just politics. This is real people's lives on the line right now.
Manu, you're smart as hell, but you're too young to really embrace that song. You got to get religion on it, and you got to listen to it. Especially when the guy says New York City, just like a picture. Manu, Raja, Van Jones, God bless. Have a good weekend, and thank you. All right, big news on this third COVID vaccine matters. It's on the verge of approval. We don't want to get ahead of it, but all indications are it's moving the right way. Johnson & Johnson, one and done. The efficacy rate is not as high as the other two brands in the testing phase. What is the difference? What does it matter? And the big question is, what does this vaccine mean